I had a brain injury almost 7 years ago. The first 3 years, I was pretty much confined to a hammock or a bed and not able to talk or read or look at a screen or do anything.
I remember the first time we met. It was almost as if you were afraid to have hope.
And that is what has changed for me, is this is the first time that I do have hope. I do not doubt any part of this process because I've already been to all the doctors. I've already done all the stuff. And what the program you laid out was very logical and data-driven.
Hey Janice, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what life was like before we started working together.
Oh my goodness. So I had a brain injury almost 7 years ago. And the first 3 years, I was pretty much confined to a hammock or a bed and not able to talk or read or look at a screen or do anything. Things were pretty bleak during those years.
I remember the first time we met. It was almost as if you were afraid to have hope.
And that is what has changed for me, is this is the first time that I do have hope. I remember when I was finishing the Transform part of the program, I told people, it's like, I do not doubt any part of this process because I've already been to all the doctors. I've already done all the stuff. And what the program you laid out was very logical and data driven. And or you could feel the difference. And I appreciated that. And so I really have not had any doubts, and I'm just moving ahead with every part of it, and I'm really grateful for that.
Mick, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I remember, and maybe you don't remember our first conversation.
I do.
There was one big fear that you really had. There was one big hesitation and one big fear you really had for Janice going through this.
Remind me, because it could have been a couple things.
Well, go with a couple things.
Well, my biggest fear were jumping into another costly program. Really what it came down to is trust. Because you have to put your faith and trust into something to move ahead. And we've done that dozens of times. Probably been through somewhere around 100 practitioners, methods, and such. So I'm very cautious about plowing into something. And it's really not even about the money, it's about the care for her and getting the results for her. So I'm always a little bit of the brake. She's the accelerator, I'm the brake. So she says, this is it. And I'm like, okay, it might be. Let's just tap it a little bit. It might be it. We'll know if it's it after it's it. And she's like, no, I know that this is it. I'm like, okay, but I'm not sold until we get there.
Well, for you, is the proof is in the pudding. I want to see some results, and I'd hate for her to have false hope.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Yes, that's exactly right.
As a protectionist, you were like, I don't want her to have false hope again.
That's true.
Let me ask you, how did, after 100 practitioners, even on the first call and the first time talking with our team, how did you know this was it?
It just made sense. It's like you were saying all the things I already knew.
Yeah.
The things I already had gathered from the last 7 years, but you were saying it. It's like what I was thinking all along. You're asking the right questions. You had the right solutions, at the time with where I was at. And
so I remember that conversation, and these are a couple of things that I really brought up that I saw, like the light in your eyes and the connections really happen, the validation. I mentioned hormones, which is a big deal.
huge.
Anybody with traumatic brain injury, anybody with focus, neurological, nervous system issues, it's unfathomable to me that hormones and the connection it has to all these different pieces just isn't understood out there. And I was looking at your age, when this happened, why didn't it get better, and what hasn't been done with hormones. And to me, that was like boom, bing, bing, bing everywhere. And as we were talking about it, I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on you and figure out what's really going on with hormones. We talked about blood sugar. We talked about digestion. We talked about food sensitivities and how that could play a role. We talked about the gut, the role of leaky gut. I mean, there were a lot of pieces that we talked about, but every piece that we went through, I could just see that you were getting more and more and more validated.
Right. Exactly. You're right. And I think, Dr. Maggie, the point where this was a life-changing moment for me. And you don't know this, but when we were brainstorming, or the medical team was kind of brainstorming what we could do regarding my sleep.
Yeah.
We could do this relaxer or this, da, 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 da. And I don't even know if you're on the screen, but you heard and you came in and you said, look, this girl's done everything.
Yeah.
This is, Janice, what do you think?
Yeah.
I have never had a doctor ask me what I thought. And that was, I talked to him about this the last few days, because that was the first of several things that have happened where I felt validated. I felt heard. Same thing with the appointments today. I felt validated, very validated. So, your advice, us being here, all of it is just a lot of synchronicity that I'm really, really grateful for. Because I feel like it's all coming together. I just texted my daughter on the way here. I feel like I'm in a healing stream that is just like, it's moving, and I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to be done, but I'm finally going the right direction.
Well, let's talk results, because I know you're like, I'm not going to believe it until I see it, right? So I would love to hear from you, and then I'm going to ask you the same question, which is, what results have you seen?
Well, it's been a little bit of a rough patch because sometimes it gets worse before it gets better.
Yep.
So it's hard to measure today's results. I'm willing to look long term, for sure. We've waited this long, we'll wait however long we have to wait for her to be 100% well. Before I answer that, one of the things that you hit on, or that you failed to hit on when you're going through the digestion and such, was the autoimmune issue, and I've long felt that was an important part of the way this brain injury played out. I didn't know what the role was. I don't have that kind of background. And it was a little bit of a sensitive subject because she didn't want to admit it and talk about it, although she knew about it. So she didn't need me bringing it up and trying to force it to the surface. But it is something that was there that I was concerned about, and the hormones was the other one. I thought those two things have got to be.
They were.
But you don't want some guy saying, hey, your hormones are out of whack. That sounds like,
so it's cool when I said that and I validated you on that.
Yeah. No, you can say it, but that's not for me to say.
I love it.
So anyhow, that being said, results to date, I will say her digestion is way better than it was, and she's gaining ground on the sleep. We're not where we want to be, but it is better, and we think going to get better, and hopefully today's the SGB will take it to another level.
Results. What's the difference?
Oh, right off the bat, digestion, because my gut stopped working the day of the accident.
Yep, you told me that.
Yeah.
Yep, and I believe you.
Yeah, it really did. And what I've had to do, to make it work over the last many years is just, it's been ridiculous. And even on the way over here, I said, I'm hungry. And he's like, look at you, like your digestion actually working, because my stomach would just stay full all the time, and nothing moved through. So that's the big thing. Like I always said, if my digestion could work and if I could sleep, my brain could heal. And I feel like we're just inching through,
Well, when you told me that, you said my 2 big goals was, one is to fix my digestion and have food move, and the other one was just to get some sleep. I said, you need to dream a bigger dream. Do you remember that?
It sounds like
you. Because for me, like, especially post TBI, especially dealing with these major issues, I remember those first couple calls where you didn't even believe that you could even watch a screen. You couldn't sit up. You were laying down. And even audio, like having sound input, you said at a certain point, I'm probably going to be only on for the first 30 minutes of the call. I remember, I don't even think you were on camera for the first couple calls that we had to where you are now.
I wasn't live. I would listen later.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was too much sensory input even.
And we still have those days, but I think they're getting fewer and farther between.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of a short history to go there. But
yeah, and the interesting thing is it's only been a couple months. This didn't take years to get here. It's only been about 2.5, 3 months since this whole process started. And that's the thing is like, I think we don't realize how much we can actually do in a really short time. Right?
Right.
And it's only been like 2.5, 3 months.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you, whoever wants to answer this one. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence, who's watching this interview, or who's watching about your case, and they're sitting here like what Mick thought was like, this can't be real. I don't want to give her false hope. This can't work, or this can't really be any different. What would you say to that person?
From my experience, this program is worth every dollar that we have spent, because I know how much we spent before we got here, and on stuff that didn't work, and anyway, this is just like, I don't know, for me, it's like, I'm just grateful we were able to find a way to make it happen. And I would say that to anybody else, find a way to make it happen. And you do have to be at a low place physically, I think, to be willing to do this, but that's what you're here for, You're here for those of us who have been around and trying a lot of stuff that didn't work. So
well, that's what I think is expensive. A lot of people think
absolutely.
Like, let's say someone's looking at $3,000, right? $3,000 for something that didn't work is really expensive. Right. $3,000 for something that really works is really cheap. So it's not objectively what that number is. It's what is the outcome that investment has been able to provide. What's the return on that investment, right? Mick, what would you say to somebody who talk to another Mick out there? What would you tell the old Mick 3 months ago, Mick?
Just to clarify, I wasn't skeptical or doubtful that it would work.
Yeah.
I was more like, the jury's out.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I will support you. But let's just keep our eyes open through the process. Yeah. So having said that, what I would tell someone else is see me in 6 months. And if I'm standing in the promised land, same thing I told her son-in-law before he proposed to my daughter.
If you're still here in 6 months, we'll talk.
Come talk to me.
I love it.
So I'd say come see me in 6 months. If we're in the promised land, I'll get you into Dr. Maggie's program.
Well, so here's what I love. You've already been referring friends and family to us. Thank you so much for that trust. And for you, here's the important thing is I love interviewing and having case studies of people who've been through a program, not just like immediately after the first 2 months, for example. So for anybody who's watching, and I'm sure you've seen some of those, we've done 6-month follow-up, 1-year follow-up, and I even have 2-year follow-up. And later on today, we're actually going to be interviewing someone who's a 6-year follow-up. Wow. And you get to meet him tonight at dinner.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's really cool.
Boy, that was an amazing interview. And I'm touched and I'm proud. These are the kind of kick-ass people we work with. And I love if you or anyone you know is struggling with POTS, dysautonomia, long haul, or unexplained chronic health symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, irritability, irritable bowel syndrome, which you know now, I think IBS is BS. If you're struggling with any chronic health related symptoms, I have a POTS and dysautonomia and long haul training series available. If you want the training series, look at the copy above or below this video and we will get the POTS training series to you. It's a free multi-part training that shows you what are some of the underlying causes of POTS, dysautonomia and long haul. Click the link below and watch my free training. Learn this one simple concept and be ready to get life back on track. Click the link below.